how to wrap the rear end of the bus. I always start on the left. You tear off a little bit of the paper from the back, you stick it up there. You get it about where you want. I know that this text has to go above this light, the license plate light, and it's not. So I'm gonna raise it up just a little bit. Right there. So I know that just over, whatever the overlap is past the middle of this light here is gonna be where the sheet is supposed to be. I know that that light's in the middle. I know that this light's in the middle. So what I can do is use that to line up the sheet. I take my double slitter and I pick a spot here. This takes a little bit of messing up a few times to get right. Cutting the sheet in the air like this, I mean. Pull your strip out. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at the bus, I'm gonna say, is that straight up and down? Yep. And right now, I'm pulling the tension out without stretching the vinyl, which is why we want the paper on the back. Rob, why don't you just peel it off the paper and lay it on the bus? Because then you have this big wobbly sheet. We got this thing in the middle, we got this thing here, this thing here. We got all kinds of textures and depths and differences and whatnot. This is it right here. It used to take me 3.5 hours to do the back end of a bus. If I wasn't running my mouth, it'd probably take me about an hour to do both sides, right? So we got our tack strip, everything's lined up, we're straight up the back. So now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and start at my high spot, which is always the thing. You start at the high point and you cut relief. Now I know I can make this, how sloppy I can make this cut because I've done so many rear ends of buses, right? And normally I don't cut the light out right now, but I'm going to because, well, I accidentally started. The important thing though is to cut out this and then come on over. I know that there's a seam here between these two panels. There's a seam here that doesn't quite line up with this seam here. So what I want to do is, right at the underside, I'm going to leave myself a little bit of slack, okay? What you don't want to do is cut this sheet short, which I did, because it'll leave the top exposed. But, alas, I can mark my bus and my sheet, and I can lift this up 1/4 of an inch. No one's ever going to know but you and me, and whoever else might see this video, which should be no one. So then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to make note that my sheet is directly at this spot on this panel here. And now I can hold this and lift this up about 1/4 of an inch. And that's going to be so close that no one's going to notice. And now I am sufficiently high. Little strappy doodle, get that out of the way. All right. What I have learned to do is to take the rear end of these buses, get it on the bus, and then cut it into sections and work with the sections. So now we're going to split these two up. I know I've done this too many times, so I kind of have a feel for it. But and again, you have, if you mess this up too bad, you can always slide it this way to cover up an oopsie over here, or cut a strip off of this and put the strip on first and then lay this on top, whatever. Lots of variables, lots of options, I mean. The other thing too is to make sure that when you cut your vinyl, it's actually laying flat on both halves, because sometimes if you have it up, there's a tent, now you're cutting at an angle whether you realize it or not, and it can mess you up a little bit. So, I got that panel out of the way. What was that? Oh, Band-Aids. From my finger earlier, just in case. Just switch pockets. And I have, the body shop's always trying to remove these little rivets and stuff. I don't care about them. This vinyl does just fine over top of them for a year or more at a time in lots of markets, up north, down south, on the East Coast, central US, whatever. I haven't had a problem with it yet, so. Squeegeeing billions of little bubbles out to the edge, and now I'm going to start feeding not heating and stretching in, but feeding the vinyl into this depression here. And yeah, you could probably use a rag or a wrap glove or something like that. I have a wrap glove. They just get so dirty in these bus environments. I do wear my ghost glove when I'm wrapping cars and stuff. So now we've got this fed in nice and neat. If you need heat for that, then you did it wrong. You don't need heat for that. And again, I'm coming in at an angle, like down this way, and I'm using the straight edge radius of this little cutout here. I used to try to wrap the inside of these handles. Don't worry about it. Nobody's ever going to see it. The other thing too is you saw me do the thing again. Before we were talking about how when you're cutting a radius this way, the handle stays in one spot, right? It's the opposite when you're on the outside of a radius. You always want the knife pointed towards the center point as you come around, right? And that's going to give you that nice, clean, straight, even cut. If you come in like this and kind of, you see how if I rotate my knife and I keep it as in line with the radius of the curve, I'm going to have a nice straight cut. If I do this number where I keep my knife straight up and down, you're going to get all wonky and stuff, as you come off the horizontal. You'll understand. Try it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Do it the wrong way. That's what I always tell people when you're trying to learn how to do vinyl or practice doing vinyl. Even if you mess up, go ahead and keep trying. Especially with like mechanics who want to wrap their hoods. I'm like, yeah, man, go ahead and buy 3 pieces of vinyl because you're going to mess it up twice. If you mess it up, go ahead and keep wrapping it and practice. Overstretch it on purpose. Overheat it. See what it does. See how it reacts. And then yank it off and put a nicer piece back up on there. Always keep your knife closed, by the way. You can't cut yourself if your blade isn't sticking out. So I find the corner, air quotes corner, and I know the right angle to cut it at, so I'm not messing it up. And again, the right motion to make out here, so I'm not. See how I turn my wrist? I'm cutting a circle, right? It's important. Remember, if you have loose vinyl, that's when you're going to get sawtooth. So I'm going to grab this corner here, and as I'm cutting, I'm going to keep tension up and out so the blade doesn't drag on the adhesive. Okay, this is a little tricky too. So in here, you want to keep this under tension. You want to have a nice even line where the vinyl vinyl is coming off of the radius for the license plate. And then there again, you got to get started, and you want to keep tension on it. Nice sharp blade. Keep your blade at 90 degrees. And now you've got a straight enough line that it looks decent. Yeah, so that's how you cut in the bottom of the panel.